I used to be afraid of you, but I don't think I am anymore.
There's nothing to fear except God.
For me, God is a disease.
It's the things that make you look at what you thought you saw in a different light. The hole in the Pentagon being too small for a plane. The lawn isn't mussed up. The government's not showing the plane hitting when many cameras photographed it.
There's nothing to fear except God. God. God.
Oh, if you already know the answers to your questions, then why ask?
It's too big.
Back and to the left, 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 back and to the left.
What's up, everybody? Have a God's Face podcast. We're back. Austin is here. What is going on, Austin?
We're just waiting for LeBron to come back to the Cavs.
Oh, Jesus.
I think he's going to Golden State.
Yeah, he's taking his sweet time right now. He saw Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo suck up all the oxygen in the room for a month, and now it's his turn to be the most famous person on earth that everyone's going to talk about when he's old as hell. But, you know, Argentina, they couldn't rig their way through the championship. They tried their best. The
God is
referees,
good.
I saw some of the worst refereeing I've ever witnessed in my entire fucking life this tournament. And
You
I'm
said some of
very,
them were definitely paid.
yeah. I mean, that Egypt game was a disgrace. I was watching that, like, I could not believe how, like, and yeah, no, congratulations to Spain. I think everyone was rooting for them. I've never hated Messi, but just, oh my God, the Argentina fans, and then
Sure.
just the fact that they wanted them to win so bad. They literally became like the Chiefs, where it's just like every game you get like horrible calls that go their way. And it gets to a point where you're like, what is going on? Like, they don't even need all this extra help. You know, they're still a good team, and they had a really easy strength of schedule. But yeah, you know, World Cup just ending. We're kind of just like, we were just at peak summer, and now we're, you know, post World Cup. But now with the Odyssey, of course, an episode we knew we were gonna do, it still feels like we're right in the middle of it. But yeah, I gotta say, before we even talk about the Odyssey, R.I.P. Sam Neill, of course, who
Oh man, yeah, that sucked.
in our
For
intro.
sure.
We could probably talk more about it another time. But yeah, I gotta see some more films that he was in. I'm not even like the biggest expert on him. Possession was really like my absolute favorite like role I'd ever seen him in. So it's just, yeah, it's just too bad. I mean, but you know, maybe I don't know. I've never even seen In the Mouth of Madness yet. I feel like that's one I gotta watch.
Oh, the Carpenter one?
Yeah.
I hear good things about it. I hear it's like kind of like underrated, underseen Carpenter.
Yeah. No, because honestly, it does seem like he had some like really good roles, and I'm probably gonna hear more about it in the coming like year or something. I'll get a better vibe for it. But Christopher Nolan with the Odyssey, which what did you think, Austin?
So okay, I'll say like thoughts when we get to talk about it more. But I mean, I was definitely excited to see it because I do think I'm not a big Nolan guy. Let me just preface by saying that.
Yeah, of course.
I really like The Prestige. I think The Prestige is like his best style.
Oh
Like
yeah, I
his
remember seeing that a
style
while
kind of is
ago.
the closest to the how good I think it got. But so I'm not like a big Nolan guy, but I think it's kind of wrong to not appreciate kind of the cojones on him, like him trying to do things practically, him trying to do spectacular things. I think that's not something to kind of scoff or so I
Yeah.
kind of like have a mixed bag with them. So I kind of went in like thinking this is going to be pretty like visually stunning. It's going to be great. I'm going to enjoy like the practicality of it. But, you know, every complaint that I thought I was going to have was just validated towards the end of the screening. I was like, yeah, I was,
Did you go by
yeah.
yourself or?
So Drew took me because it was his birthday, so he got tickets.
Okay. What did he think?
Oh, he was really into it. He was
Okay,
kind
that's
of
good.
we were talking about it kind of at the end. He brought up kind of an interesting point that it's like very similar to Oppenheimer, the
Uh-huh.
way the story's kind of told non-linearly, and
Right.
I don't know, but yeah, we'll get into specific parts about the film, but there were
Ah,
like
we
20
we don't
times
need
in
to get.
it.
No,
Not
I'm
like
just joking.
20. That's the joke
That's
everyone's
just
been
such a
saying
funny
on
thing to do.
YouTube.
It's just the Odyssey episode. I'm like, we don't need to get into the plot.
Yeah.
No, but sorry, I cut
There was
you
like,
off.
oh, you're good. There was like 20 times in the film where I was like, this is great. Okay, now we're just doing something. Okay. I was like, oh, dude, I like this. Okay. Okay, now we're
Yeah,
back to, okay, what is this?
I don't
It
know.
felt
The
like the
movie.
Odyssey's greatest hits.
Yeah, there. I mean, this is like one of those movies that I'm almost like hesitant to wade into, like just how much baggage is because it's kind of similar to Oppenheimer in the sense of like every Uber driver and every rando at a bar when they hear that I like film, they're gonna say to me for the next 3 years, "Did you see the Odyssey?" I have to look them in the eyes and go, "Yeah, I did," which is what happened with Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer, the thing that made that such a like an interesting experience is that it's not like an action movie, is the
Yeah.
fact it was basically a blockbuster that was just like a legit drama, which I appreciated. And
Yes.
again, we'll get into it. I have a lot to say. I mean, again, simplest way to put it is I think Christopher Nolan's film is an incredible mess. There's
Sure.
almost no way around that. I mean, there's literally no way around it. He made the casting decisions he did, which really put forth kind of this cultural debate about the movie before it even came out that, immediately kind of colored this like now people are seeing it, right? And people are liking it, but then they're going even further being like, "Oh, and I thought everyone and oh my god, like we're gonna
Hmm.
get into like all the baggage of it, but
Sure.
this is one of those movies where you realize that nobody understands what like acting is supposed to be. Like you realize that everyone just has a completely like fiction, like they
Different.
have their own. Yeah, everyone has their own interpretation of what acting is, where it's like, okay,
That's
Matt
interesting.
Damon, he's tied up again on the mast and the sirens are luring him, so then he just starts screaming bloody murder, and then I guess someone sees that and they go, oh, that's his Oscar moment. It's like, really, really, that siren sequence is the best depiction of the sirens we could get, really.
And it, like
And
I
you can
said,
go
it just
through
comes
all
out
of
of
these.
nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even trying to I'm not even giving the most sophisticated analysis for what I'm saying,
Sure.
but is that really how Odysseus reacts when he hears the sweetest song? Like it just seems like a meme or something. And then of course the memes are coming out now, like me when this happens or something, and it's you're tied to the mast, you're Matt Damon, right? And the whole
Yeah.
movie, people start having this conversation about the movie with the casting, which we'll get into, which I definitely think is a huge problem about the movie. And I don't even think it's just like Lupita Nyong'o, which of course is definitely asking for a cultural debate, which it almost does make me think he like had some idea that people would be like upset about that, or
Hmm.
casting Elliot Page to play this Sinon character that's not in the Odyssey at all. Like in the
Right.
actual Odyssey, he's like talking to like Achilles and he sees like Oedipus's like mother in the underworld. But in Christopher Nolan's, he sees Elliot Page playing Sinon. And that was actually better acting than when Elliot Page gets murdered in the first 2 seconds of the movie. But the way I would
Sure.
put it is we can have like kind of like an ugly like cultural conversation. And again, Hollywood has never been accurate on casting anybody. I mean, like you in the history of like classic Hollywood, of course you've had white people playing like Egyptians and all of that, right? So
Yeah.
there's some degree where it's funny. Like, you know, when like the Pakistani guy walks up to someone in the Odyssey, he's like, "We're Greeks." It's like, okay, you're not Greek. Like this is a little funny, but I can overlook it when I realize that all of classic Hollywood, that you're gonna get that in like movies from like 60, 70 years ago. I've always been the type of
Hmm.
person that doesn't really care that much. People that
Right.
are like, of the other person, you know, people that like think every movie that was made before, you know, 1999 was racist, right? Like those people, they wouldn't like that, but they seemed really happy that this film has an incredibly diverse cast, which I think is possible to do. I think it's possible to have like the diverse cast. I just think when every single role is pretty much a bad acting performance, it just, to me, and again, people aren't gonna like that I'm saying that. I mean, I thought Anne Hathaway was bad. She was like hamming
Oh
it
wow.
up. Oh my god. She was
Yeah.
just like, "Oh, I need Odysseus." And you're like, okay.
Interesting.
But I don't know. I just felt like that whole baggage, all the baggage about that going in made me skeptical just because, and then, you know, Travis Scott in the opening minutes as
He's
well, where
it's like
it's
wait,
like,
wait, wait, what?
what utility do we get out of casting one of the most famous rappers in the world in a throwaway part? Like, what is the point of that?
Hmm.
Like, I don't know. I don't know if you have an answer. I don't have an answer. Is that really modernizing it, or are we just throwing too many familiar like faces in every single role? I thought I even saw some other people make this comment who like the film more than I do. It really is a movie where there are too many famous people in every role. And I do believe it's possible to make films loaded with stars, but I really think it backfires here, you know? And again, it's even funny to say that because of course this movie is going to just be like the most like beloved film of the year in terms of like Oscars and a critical acclaim and like money and budget and stuff, like how much money
Hmm.
it's making. But I thought it was bizarre across the board. I mean, John Bernthal as Menelaus.
That
I
was
was
yeah,
like,
that was trippy.
these casting decisions don't make any sense. Benny Safdie as Agamemnon. I'm seeing people like the discourse is like, oh, this guy just showed up in this movie and aura farmed. It's like, yeah, what an amazing performance. You just put a ton of armor on him. You can't see his face the whole movie. And then you finally hear him speak and he gets like murdered, and you're like, oh, I forgot that because that's, we both watched Troy before this podcast just because that's like the big contrast between the Odyssey and
Yes.
Troy because they had some of the same like characters in each movie. And yeah, I mean, they're not the same film. I mean, Troy, I think, is adapting probably the Iliad, right? And so it's not
Right.
necessarily the same film, but like Achilles isn't even in this version of the Odyssey, which he's not like a prime character in the text, the Odyssey, but it is kind of strange that there's no Achilles in this version. And then, you know, the meme everyone was saying was everyone was guessing that Elliot Page was going to play Achilles was what people were like
Right.
shit talking about, which didn't end up happening. And so now everyone that loves the movie is like, see, Lupita and Elliot, they got more hate than screen time. It's like, okay, true, but like,
Yeah, but like if you're not going to give them that much to do, why can't you
yeah,
give that to another actor who would
yeah,
love
like
to have
what's the
that
real?
opportunity?
They each had 2 or 3 minutes on screen, and they're like throwaway characters. I mean, Elliot Page, I thought in like the underworld part was more interesting to me than
Oh, for sure.
getting murdered in the first couple of minutes. Um, and yeah, I do think there's a lot of this conversation is not so much what are the actual characters supposed to look like? Any of that gets lost because the whole history of like the Odyssey, like as a text, it is kind of strange. I mean, like, Homer, it seems like he was just like performing it like orally. Like he didn't even that's like the lore about it, that it was like
Mm.
like performed. It wasn't even written down for like hundreds of years, which is really complicated and kind of confused. I'm still even wrapping my head around that, what that even means. You know what I mean? Because it's one of the foundational texts in, Western civilization. But no, I mean, so that's not really the conversation. Is like, can you have like people you wouldn't have ever guessed? Because of course that's like the whole, and I'm sure that even happened in the Odyssey itself before it was written down. I'm sure there was some degree of like,
Yeah,
so there is some degree with like myths like that, or like an epic poem, like you can make your changes to it. But if you're just completely like just making whatever decision you want, and it doesn't really feel justified, any of the decisions that are being made, it just seems kind of like random or like a scatter shot. Like, let's just have like, his number two on the boat. I don't even know what the guy's name, the guy that ends up like leading the guys to like eat, like I think Apollo's like sheep or something, or I forget. It's like his
oh
number
yeah.
two. The Odysseus is number two. Yeah, it's like I don't even know who that guy is. I'm like, why was he cast as that role? Why was Benny Safdie cast as Agamemnon? Like, I'm just so confused. Even Matt Damon. I mean, Matt Damon does a solid job, but I'm still just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why Matt Damon has to be like in the biggest movie in the world in 2026. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't have a problem with him, but like, why exactly is he the lead? Like, I don't know. I'm just like
Sure.
rambling at this point.
Well, there are some like good things about it though.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cyclops part is definitely the best scene
Yeah,
for
I think
me.
everyone would like universally agree with that. Some people are saying the when oh, what's her name? When she turns the guys into pigs is pretty dope.
Oh yeah, yeah, the Samantha Morton scene.
Yeah, I found that
The
genuinely
Yeah, I
like
think it's Cirque, or I think it's how you pronounce her name, or Cersei or something. The
yeah.
the witch. Yeah, no, the way that he did that with the way that she turned them into pigs was pretty amazing too. Like the little practical sequence. So the way I would describe it is that I genuinely thought most of the acting was just horrible, and
Mm,
most people, it made no sense to me why anyone was cast like as the person like they were. And it just doesn't feel like Nolan can make a movie like this. I mean, again, he's having a huge he's completely gonna he's one of those people that's never gonna fail. He's always gonna succeed. So take this with a grain of salt. I'm saying it from the standpoint of like artistically, whatever. This is pretty this is one of those movies. There's a lot of like, from like the opening salvos of our conversation, like in terms of like baggage, like there's also something to be said about adapting a text that that's been like in the consciousness forever, and then
yeah.
this is your version. It's like, it- where I get with it is like, is this really like, if someone makes a movie about Jesus, for instance, it's like it's pretty easy to do it horribly. You know what I mean? Like, and I think there's a reason for that. Like, if you take big liberties with how anyone has ever seen like these kind of iconic stories, you're opening yourself up to all these different avenues that really don't have good answers to them on like exactly what your justification is, like whether it be casting, or he does this thing where
Mm,
he tries to make Odysseus have like a Christian like a Christian philosophy by the end of the movie, which is this thing that's not even in, like, it might be like a phrase in the Odyssey, but I'm pretty sure this is a Christopher Nolanism, where he says like, treat everyone as you would want to be treated because they could be a god in disguise,
right.
which is a real thing. So getting into the text, um
Can I
there is
bring
this.
something?
Yeah, sure. I'm rambling. Again, this
No,
this
you're
is such a
good.
messy movie. I don't get how everyone is I don't get how people even think that this is like a great movie when there's so many massive question marks about every aspect of the film. Like, it's well made. The first 2 hours to me, I was taken along. You know what I mean? But the
Sure.
last 40 minutes, I just lost all my patience with it. And I was like, this is
Well,
departing from this is departing from like what the text is in such a way and doing it in such a stupid way that I'm
sure.
like, I have to put my foot down. This is bullshit.
There's like these memes going around where do you remember I forget his last name. He plays the blind man, John
Oh yeah, that's another casting decision. Why is fucking Mario in this movie?
wait, what?
Didn't he play fucking Mario in like the Mario and Luigi movie?
Do you
Super
remember at the
Mario
beginning
Brothers.
when he's selecting like the hunting dog and he just like yeets one of the puppies? He's like, not this one, and he just tosses it
Oh
aside.
yeah.
There's all these memes going around that was like, I guess
No, he
Zeus's
was
law doesn't
Luigi.
apply to these dogs.
Yeah, yeah. No, John Leguizamo was Luigi in
Yeah.
the Super Mario Brothers
Oh,
movie.
he was the one dude in Summer of Sam. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. No, and he's great in that. But like, what is he like? That's like, it's like, why do we have to have every role I recognize who the person is? Like, there's no like no name. There's no, there's no, there's like no one that like just is the role, and I can appreciate it as such. There's like a massive amount of, I can't believe he cast this person as this. It's like, what is that? What's the reason for casting him as like Odysseus's like mentor?
No, I get that.
I mean, it just is bizarre to me. Like, it's every role. I mean, I don't even like Zendaya. I don't think she's like a very good actress either. And I don't like Tom Holland, but they did a good job compared to the rest of the cast. They were the only two people where I was like, okay,
And
they're
like the public is saying that like Tom Holland's like the worst part of the movie, and I'm like, I don't
yeah, that's
really like
hilarious.
think so. Like, I
I
think
know. It's just I don't
yeah,
even get what people are like looking at when they're talking about like acting, but oh my god, yeah, I don't even know. We haven't even started to talk about like how do we even do, like this is such a known entity, and Christopher Nolan, I mean, he botched it. Like he tried to make like a Dark Knight Rises cutting between multiple locations thriller, but the fucking movie set over like 20 years. It just never
yeah.
takes a breath. So it's like dun 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 dun. I started doing the There Will Be Blood sound on accident, but no, it's like what's the sound in like the Dark Knight Rises? Like dun 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 dun, and it's like, is that really the vibe of the Odyssey? Like this epic? So I don't know. If it was 2 hours long and he's trying to make like a Christopher Nolan thriller and you kind of cut some stuff out, it's like, okay, I understand that. But then when you get to this last sequence, and again, I literally went back and looked at my copy of the Odyssey. I went back and I looked through some of these scenes to see what was different between my version of the text, right? Like, let's say it's a version of the Odyssey that was translated in like the 30s or something, or maybe
Sure.
like the 60s. I actually don't know what my copy is. But let's just say, so that compared to what Nolan did, he made some weird changes. Like, I'm not even just talking about the casting. So you said it earlier about Oppenheimer, the fact that it's like not linear, and that's like the thing about this. That's the best quality. I was actually reading the introduction in my copy of the Odyssey, that the person who did the
Mm-hmm.
translation is describing, essentially what, and it really is one of the foundations of Western literature, this non-linear narrative, because that's Homer. I mean, that's like the most brilliant, that's probably the most intriguing part about reading it, is that it literally, like, the movie is faithful in that sense. Like, that's one of the things it did correctly, that I thought it's obviously super necessary, which is you kind of introduce Tom Holland and his mom with all these suitors, and then you start hearing about the legend of Odysseus, and then Tom Holland goes
Sure.
to talk to Menelaus, and he sees Helen of I don't think it's Helen of Troy. It's like Helen of she was Helen of Troy, but then they rescued her from the Trojan War, right? So then it's Helen of something else. I'm like blanking on what her her title is, but she's sitting there with Menelaus, and Menelaus, the John Bernthal character, who is Agamemnon's brother, he starts telling him all these stories about Odysseus. So then you get flashbacks in that way that you first get introduced to that. But then it cuts to Odysseus on this island with Calypso, who is
Oh my
literally a
gosh.
goddess, played by Charlize Theron. That actually made sense, right? Her being Calypso makes sense. And then, Zendaya is like a Greek goddess. It's like, yeah, that makes sense, right? There's like cultural baggage that lines up. Like our perceptions of these people like line up with the role. And like it's not like they have to like completely you have to completely reimagine how you perceive them before
Yeah.
you see them do a role. And
Well,
they're not, they also don't need to be like, it's not like that difficult if you cast people correctly for them to just like, like Charlize Theron. It's like, this is like clearly a role like she could like do, and it's a supporting character too. And,
yeah.
she literally is a goddess. And I think they have those conversations in the movie where Odysseus, like, she's literally like, I can have you live forever, is what she says in the text. Does she say that in the movie?
I don't recall that.
Right? So that's another thing, that she's more like almost like a witch. So that's really my critique with it, is that you can have your own interpretation of these like a a legendary text like this. But if you make decisions, like I was saying with the like, if every person is a god in disguise, you have to treat them. If he's trying to take like modern day ideology and impress it on this text where it doesn't exist, right? Like
That's
the
yeah, it's
people
like
in the
with the
text,
gods it's confusing. Like the metaphysicalness of the movie is confusing to me
I
because he
know, and
has the idea of gods in it, but he gives them really like nothing visually metaphysical to do. Am I wrong? Like
no, exactly. He takes out, because it's way more zany and wackadoodle doo in like the real text, like
right.
it. It's literally like you see the gods on Mount Olympus debating if they're gonna let Odysseus get back to Penelope. Like they're literally like,
Ah.
I don't, like they're literally like fighting amongst each other, and like some of them want him to, some of them don't. The whole bit about how, and we're jumping around because I just don't respect this movie, but uh,
No, it's like when
Matt
she
Damon,
says
when he
like
comes, sorry,
are you
what?
talking about when he comes back and she's
Yeah,
like
when he comes
Poseidon's
home.
gonna try to stop you, but Zeus is on your side. It's like, okay, it's just like a quick
No, and there is,
line. It doesn't mean anything.
yeah, and some of that is like real. So there are literally extended sequences in the text where Athena like literally transforms into a different person, and then she
Right.
gives the son the idea. She goes to his son in the original text as like she's like transformed into like an old man, right? So it's like, imagine a scene with Zendaya, and then she literally transforms before your eyes into like an old man and goes to, I think it's Telemachus or whatever Odysseus' son is named, and she's who gives him the idea to go talk to Menelaus, I'm pretty sure. So there's all
Mm.
this kind of stuff, and that's the thing about these ancient Greek epics that's so fascinating when you read them, is they are so fucking wacky. Like they're incredible. Again, and I'll also preface by saying I actually did read the Odyssey all the way through last summer, so I have a pretty good memory of it. But
Mm.
I'm not like a diehard, right? This is not. I read it and it wasn't like the greatest thing I've ever read. It was obviously amazing, but it's still like there's a level with it that I still am trying to like understand, and I'd be down to read other like translations and stuff. So I'm not even coming at it from this standpoint of like the Odyssey itself, like the text is literally the greatest work of like if Christopher Nolan did like Dante's Divine Comedy and butchered it, I'd be even more angry. Just because when I read that, I was like just so locked in. I genuinely think that's like, way higher on the list of like the greatest works of literature. Um, but the point I'm making is, when you have this Christian ideological slant where you say, treat everybody how you want to be treated, which again, I agree with that sentiment. I'm not saying it's a bad sentiment, but you're getting so far away from what Homer believed, right? It's similar to like this Agamemnon part where Agamemnon sacrifices his daughter so then his wife kills him.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure that's a Christopher Nolanism as well. I don't know if Agamemnon killed his daughter. That might be true, but that's not the reason his wife kills him. His wife like hatches a sinister plot with like one of Agamemnon's like other soldiers or something, and then like his soldier like steals his kingdom or something crazy, and he comes back home and he gets like poisoned or something. So he does get killed by his wife in the Odyssey in the text, and I'm pretty sure, yeah. Odysseus does talk to him in Hades, but it kind of drives me up a wall, like when Anne Hathaway is like, "Oh, that's monstrous," and she like weirdly has like an English accent when she says that, or whatever. Like she has this line where she's like, "Oh, it's monstrous that Agamemnon would sacrifice his daughter." It's like that is literally what these people did. They were barbarians. The ancient Greeks are like their belief system is completely different. You know, they believed in human sacrifice. They believed in animal sacrifice. They believed in like gutting, like literally like you know gutting a pig and drenching the blood all over stuff. Like there's something about it that is almost like satanic in like a crazy kind of way. And I'm not really sure if you're like just a soft brained Christopher Nolan, if you really like have some kind of like appreciation for what was going on there, and it's also kind of bizarre how there's all this lore about did the Trojan War actually happen? You know what I mean? And it seems like
Yeah,
there's some kind of truth there because it seems like Homer, and then I actually just read the Aeneid, which is like the story about Aeneas, who is another person that I think was inside the Trojan horse, allegedly, in like different versions of the myth. But Aeneas, who with his Oh no, sorry, I got that mixed up. He wasn't in the Trojan horse. He was actually a Trojan. He was actually a Trojan.
oh,
So Odysseus is Greek, and then Aeneas for the Aeneid, he is like a Trojan. And then you follow the Trojans after Troy is burned down. You follow them, like bouncing around, this ancient like civilization, right? But
right.
that's like one of my big critiques about the movie. It's not just the casting, but it's this idea of modernization of this text that becomes, oh yeah, the ancient Greeks, they just believed you have to treat people equally. It's like, what? What? Aren't we a little bit far? Like, I'm sorry, I get it. It's your version, but we're just gonna like pretend like, I mean, like they had slaves in ancient Greece. Like they had full on slavery. And I was even looking again. I was looking at the ending. I was like rereading little parts of it earlier today. One of the maids, after Odysseus kills all the suitors, apparently, I think he's either covered in blood or there's like bodies everywhere. It's blood everywhere, right?
Sure.
And one of the maids goes, "Look at him. He's like a lion. The way he murdered all of them. How amazing is that?" Like she loves it. Like it's literally like being a great like warrior. It wasn't like, oh, I saved the day, these are the bad guys. It was like being a conqueror. I mean, some of this is, again, like I'm saying with Nolan being kind of soft brain, this is a larger philosophical conversation that goes beyond like, let me make this adventure movie, like there are philosophers that have like talked about, there are analyses of, when Christianity came on the scene and all this, and how it was kind of a different thing than what the Greeks and the Romans believed. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
like, I'm not really sure Christopher Nolan really. I mean, first of all, I doubt he is like Christian, but secondly, I don't really think he's looking back at these people and he's thinking like, oh, what did they believe? Why? Like, not even is it good or bad, but just what is the kind of unspeakable poetry of this text. I think he's more just like, oh, this is going to be like an epic blockbuster, And oh, I
Mhm.
guess I'll just kind of I'll just change something here, I'll change something there, and I'll make it relatable. I'll make it relatable when, to me, making a really amazing adaptation of the Odyssey would look nothing like this. I mean, I read it last summer, and when I read it, I thought to myself, this should be shot on like a soundstage with bright colors, and it should be like you know, it should be like eye popping, like the visuals, right? Like not like
Okay.
dark or anything, but like Technicolor, like like really like bright and colorful. Because all the stuff with the gods shape shifting, and then the gods will literally give you ideas and stuff. And you know, the Deus ex machina notion is another thing that Christopher Nolan has like no concept of how to deal with that in a film, which is that you
Mm.
have characters that are like more powerful than the main characters, and they are affecting what's happening. Like they're literally gods coming down and helping the humans against each other, you know. And to me, I'm not even saying all this to say, oh, the ancient Greeks were like idiots or something, they believed all this shit. That's the last thing I'm saying. I'm saying if you like lean into what the actual like text is doing, it becomes something way more provocative, way more poetic, because it's more mysterious to us. So if you have it, like if you make a Technicolor Odyssey on a soundstage and then it's R-rated, really violent, bloody, and then the whole ethic of the film is that Odysseus is great because he's a conqueror. He's not ashamed of what he did. I mean, I think some of this is like when I was looking back at like the text when he's you know, the scene where Odysseus is finally talks with Penelope,
Yeah.
but he's like dressed as the beggar. So, like I said before, it's not just that he dresses as like an old man. He literally, the goddess Athena, like makes him look like an old man. Like he already is older, but she like literally makes him look like a different person too. So that's if you know. But that also is a trope of like great literature and like the Greek tragedies, like right, like I mean, Oedipus Rex is a great example of that, of people just not recognizing like you know, people they're actually like related to, right? Because of
Mm.
like time and separation. And it's kind of a classic trope. I mean, Don Quixote has a lot of great scenes like that as well. There's a lot of great works of literature where you have kind of this almost like this lazy Susan kind of thing, or it's when like you know one person gets swapped out and they come back in, they look completely different, and no one recognizes them, even though you as an audience member know that they know each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with that, like in terms of like the realism of it when he's talking to everybody. Um, but when he starts being like, I feel so much regret for what I did in Troy. I like hurt all these people and I didn't honor Zeus's law. It's just like that's not that's not why people like Odysseus. You know? They like this dude because he's literally like the conqueror of Troy, you know?
Mm.
Like that's their ethic. Like you know, before Christianity, like you were a better person if you were a conqueror. There was no guilt. Like the notion of being guilty for like war is insane. Like that's like not even at all related to what they believed. And I don't know. I think there's a way to do this where you could have that complete inversion of the text where you're just completely changing, because again, you know, like I'm saying, I think the text is a lot more fascinating because it's hard to have really easy 21st century solutions to what it's supposed to even mean. You know what I mean? Like it's an epic, but it's not like saying killing people is wrong. Like I don't think that's in like the text at all. But I don't know. Maybe I'm out on a limb here as far as being being like really irritated that like again, I'm not even super obsessed with the text, but like you could even do it way more accurate to the source material and the movie would be way better. Way better. It'd
Mm.
be way more R-rated. By the way, it's like an R-rated movie. It feels like it's PG-13.
For sure. It definitely does. There's not
It's a
like really
complete
anything that bad in it.
it's completely a muted, a totally like infantilized version of the Odyssey. And people are seeing it being like, "Oh, Christopher Nolan, this is awesome." I think even saying it's visually stunning is like an exaggeration. Like it's like the movie moves, it's like enjoyable to watch, but it's so hard for me after seeing that one time to really think that someone who like has read the text recently would agree with every single decision that Nolan made. You know, I think a lot of people have read the Odyssey, but I think a lot of people see in the movie there's a lot of distance from the text. And I think this is one of those cases where this is a pretty bad adaptation. You know, if I hadn't read the Odyssey, I still think I would be very lukewarm on this and still probably not like it. But having read it, I really detest it.
Ah, fuck.
But sorry,
No,
we're not even talking about like the plot or anything
um,
because everyone knows what the plot is. Like he goes, he's in the Trojan horse and he's in the Trojan War, and then he can't get home to his family for like years.
yeah, the freaking do you remember like taking a film class once in your life and being like, if you say something, you gotta show it?
Uh huh.
Did you notice how like there's like 30 things in this movie where somebody will say something for like 2 seconds and then there will be like a 2 second shot of what they just said?
Oh, really? I forgot about that.
How just like, oh, he was there and the blah blah blah, or like when people are recalling
Oh yeah.
the war and everything, and like they'll just be like these little quick snippets, and I'm just like, it just feels kind of like as long as this movie is, it feels like it like doesn't, it needs more time. Does
Oh
that make
yeah.
sense? Like it feels like it like
Well,
it feels like
I just
it's
don't know if
too long, and yet it like isn't long enough.
Well, yeah, like because of the source material. The source material is literally spread out over like 20 years. And like, Matt Damon is with Calypso for like 7 years and the Trojan War is 10 years. And I think they're at
Mm,
sea for like 2 or 3 years. Like it's so like making it a Christopher Nolan like thriller makes no sense. Like if he did it over 2 hours, I think it would make more sense. Or this should be like 4 or 5 hours. So, I was going to bring this up at one point, and this is literally, I swear to God, when I read the text, there was something that just jumped out at me. And I literally had this conversation with people way before this movie even came out, just on my revelations on reading the Odyssey. There are
yeah.
things about when you read classic literature, it's good for the soul, okay? Because there are things about any great work of literature that they do not tell you. Your teachers don't tell you, your, culture doesn't tell you. They talk about the Cyclops, they talk about action sequences, the Trojan horse, like these things that are, larger than life, like these like symbols, but things that we all know. What you don't hear about are like individual sentences. There is a motif in the Odyssey. There's a bunch of motifs that I was completely drawn to. And I think they say it's because the Odyssey was intended to be spoken. So it was always kind of like orally performed, like over a couple of nights, to
Mm,
like an audience. And there are these motifs that seem to be keeping the audience in track of what was happening. So he Homer would keep describing Odysseus like in these glowing terms, be like subtle, brilliant Odysseus, or like courageous Odysseus. Like there's things like that, like adjectives that are kind of funny, which again, it's like thousands of years old, so who knows how many translations like have like mangled this. But my favorite part about the Odyssey is you're going through kind of this epic, and what's an epic? It's not a fucking Christopher Nolan thriller. I'm sorry. It's not edge of your seat, bank robbery movie that happens in 20 minutes. An epic is like over 20 years. You have to breathe. It's impossible to do a 20-year epic and make it like feel like it's 5 minutes, in my opinion.
mm,
You have to have these lulls. You have to have, and again, in the text of the Odyssey, it keeps referring to the dawn. It'll refer to the sun going down. It'll refer to imagery, right? It refers to things that are outside of the character action. That is just the environment changing behind the characters. And these are kind of like beats because you'll have characters updating each other on the legend of Odysseus. And then later on in the text, getting more up to date information of, this is not just a legend. I saw him at Troy or something, you know, and this is what last time I saw him. There is this motif where every time it talks about the dawn, it refers to it as the dawn appeared fresh and rosy fingered. That's the phrase in my translation. And I just love that. That sentence is incredible to the degree that I literally wrote down for a completely different reason, having nothing to do with the podcast. I already had written this down, a bunch of different moments in the text where it says this over and over and over again. I can read some of these quotes. One of them is like, as soon as dawn appeared, fresh and rosy fingered, noble Odysseus's dear son Telemachus was eager to set out for the city. That's like one example. And that's like, let's say that's like the first sentence of a chapter, right? Or like a book. And then as soon as dawn appeared, fresh and rosy fingered, Odysseus's son got up from his bed and put his clothes on. And I think this might be my favorite one. And does this even say fresh? Oh no, this is actually just a good sentence from it. But yeah, it keeps saying fresh and rosy fingered. This is probably my favorite quote that I wrote down from like the text. And this is from early in it. Leaving the waters of the splendid east, the sun leapt up into the brazen firmament to bring light to the immortals and to mortal men on fruitful earth. So there's all these lines that I just read that have to do with the dawn and the sun coming up in the morning, and you have this breath where you're being told a story by Menelaus and his wife, and everyone's drunk, so everyone goes to bed, and then they all wake up the next day and they have a full day, and then they're at dinner again and they keep telling stories. That's the Odyssey. It's not whatever Christopher Nolan is doing. I mean, he didn't use the phrase "the dawn rose fresh and rosy fingered." That's like the first thing I identified about this text that I was interested in terms of like the poetry of it. Like what is the aesthetic quality to it? It's not it's not like the action is part of it, and we'll get into that, you know, with the ending. Oh my God. And again, just like this, I didn't even have a problem with, you know, we both rewatched Troy, and I love that movie. And I think that movie also kind of has this communication with the past where there is like a vibe of characters, you know, feeling guilt for people being killed and all this kind of thing. But then the main characters, and this is why I think it's an infinitely better film than the Odyssey, is Achilles in Troy makes the decision to conquer and to kill so he will be remembered. To be a man of consequence, he has to do these things. Right. And I don't even have a problem with bringing in 21st century moralizing, because you as an audience member are going to feel that if you don't even acknowledge it, especially in a Hollywood film. And that's like some of the other characters around him are saying, you know, like this, the Rose Byrne character in Troy, she's like always like, you know, too much like killing. And the movie ends up becoming like a true Greek tragedy because everyone dies and everyone is sucked up into this cycle of violence in this war. And to some degree it is like for Achilles, like for legacy. But yeah, I just think it's almost like if Nolan wants to do like a great Greek tragedy, like he almost would have been better off with a story that had the main character die in the end, because then at least you would have had some feeling of like, oh wow, this is something different, you know, this is actually him doing something differently, or trying to approach like, you know, not the kind of cinema he always does. But I don't know. I could go on and on about some of this. I don't even know how much I'm articulating it, just because, you know, it is like an adventure movie, and like you are swept up in certain sequences of it, and like I actually did like when they went into Hades and stuff, and seeing Agamemnon and all this. But yeah, no, I was gonna bring up the ending too, because that was really when I just decided like, fuck it, I'm just gonna burn all the bridges on this movie.
Yeah, I did like so. Did you think that it was kind of dumb how like Calypso's Charlize Theron, right?
Yeah.
How she's just like she lets him remember, and then he's just like it's just like it reminded me of that like Inception thing, or not Inception, Interstellar, where he's like, I've been here for like 20 years. Well, and it's just like, okay,
No, yeah,
cool.
that
Like,
actually.
I don't care. Like, it's interesting, but
Well, and again, it's like, Nolan just infantilizes the whole thing because it's like, Odysseus is totally laying pipe in Calypso. Like, it's not like they're just walking down the beach holding hands. You know what I mean? Like, the text literally, I'm like 90% sure the text literally says, like, they're like making love. You know what I mean?
oh,
Like,
nice.
because that, again, it's a different, they didn't believe what we believed. Like, he's like actively misses his wife and he's still sleeping with this goddess, and it's not like he feels guilty about that. That's just what he's doing now. It's like, yeah, I'm just on an island
Yeah,
fucking a goddess. And but
it
isn't
just
that
feels like
more
that's
interesting than what Nolan
yeah.
does? Isn't that more interesting than having, like, I don't even know, like a fucking like Viagra commercial with the old man walking down a beach holding hands with his wife?
It's just
It's
like
just
the movie.
bizarre. And Benny Safdie, listen up, punk. This is the
Whoa.
worst. People talked about Lupita probably too much just because it's so like it's. I mean, again, if you cast a black lady to play Helena Troy, it has to be Zendaya. It has to be someone that's like literally known for being like the hottest person on earth because there's cultural baggage with the role, right? Zendaya as Helena Troy, no one would care. No one would
Mm.
comment that she's like black. No, I mean, I'm sure some people will be like, "Oh, this is woke." It's because we haven't even seen Lupita Nyong'o in a movie like in forever. I don't even know how many roles she's even been in, and now she's playing such an iconic character. That's the reason there's this jarring thing. But I'm even bringing this up again because Benny Safdie is the biggest downgrade because people are talking about Diane Kruger from Troy, and again, she's also not Greek; she's German. She
Mm.
had, dare I say, had a more illustrious career than Lupita Nyong'o, though. So that's, in that case, playing an iconic role, she actually does. It's not just Travis Scott playing a nameless poet, and you go, why is the super famous person having a small role? But it's literally like an iconic role being played by a famous person, right?
Sure.
But then Benny Safdie as Agamemnon. I'm seeing people just say the craziest stuff about Benny Safdie in that role. Where I'm like, do you know who plays Agamemnon in Troy? Fucking Brian Cox. Brian Cox, who's like just coming off a masterclass on Succession. He is unbelievable in Troy. And it just makes you think, like, is that the biggest downgrade in the history of film from one character to another, like from one actor playing a role to another,
Mm.
of Brian Cox to Benny Safdie? Like, is that literally the biggest fall off of all time?
Gee.
I think it. I think it might be. I think it might be. And frankly, I don't even think Benny Safdie is like a bad actor. But when they take his helmet off and you hear his voice, and then he gets killed, and there's this weird like counterpoint where I'm just kind of like, what is Nolan going for with this movie? Like, none of these roles, like, no one fits the role. Every single role is like some kind of weird counterpoint, but he doesn't have a sophisticated appreciation of the past or actually trying to have a conversation with what Homer believed and what the ancient Greeks believed, like with these gods, and like we're saying, with like the gods actually interfering in affairs, with the Greeks' perceptions on sexuality and violence and all these things. And it just doesn't
Right.
seem like he has a self-aware idea of why Benny Safdie doesn't seem like a king. I mean, he's wearing armor, but like,
Yeah.
why cast him? With like this very like kind of like soft voice that's like boyish. It's like, is Agamemnon that, or is he Brian Cox from Troy, who's like a lunatic? Is that a more authentic Agamemnon, the guy who wants to conquer Troy? You know what I mean? Like, is Agamemnon really just like aura farming, just standing in armor? He can't even see his face. Like, it just rubs me the wrong way. Where I'm like, what is the like? People just see shit in Nolan and they just go, "Whoa," and you're just like, really?
Yeah.
Like, this used to mean something. Like in fucking The Dark Knight Rises, where they have the whole stunt, like with the airplane in the sky and stuff. Like, that's insane. Like, that's literally an incredible scene. But Benny Safdie standing in the armor as everyone charges into Troy, it's not amazing. It's not. I'm sorry. It doesn't connect with me. It's just like it's like a weird move. It almost does seem like he has some kind of sense of what's gonna like go viral or something. Like, it doesn't really feel like cinema to me at that point.
Mm. Mm. That's
But
interesting.
anyway, getting to the ending, because of course Odysseus is an incredible warrior, so there's some degree of,
Yeah,
suspending your
she's just like, all right, go home, and then he's home. It's not even
yeah,
because the movie's so packed that it has to happen like that quickly by the end of the movie. There's not like another solution, like
yeah, that as well, yeah.
or make your 4 hour Odyssey, which I like at that point. I'm kind of like, it's weird to like say this movie should be longer and also crap on it,
No, I
you
mean,
know?
just for what Nolan is trying to do and like the pace he's trying to put on. When I got to the 2 hour mark, I was like, I really want this to end. I don't care that much. Like, I'm here, I'm open to this being good, bad, whatever. I had kind of low expectations for it just because I don't think Nolan is the guy to have to make a good movie that has to do with like spirituality and, appreciate. I mean, Dunkirk is another great example of this, where the dude doesn't know shit about World War II. He made a full movie about Dunkirk. What's the biggest question about Dunkirk?
Wasn't that
The
like it was
biggest
actually the Germans' fault because they could have just like wiped them out there and they kind of like didn't play their hand, or
Yeah, yeah,
I read
Hitler
that like
literally
before I saw the
decided,
movie.
because he wanted to make a deal with the British government, he willingly decided to let him go. It's like the biggest question mark of all World War II is, why would Hitler, if the Germans are being portrayed the way we've always been told they are, right? Which they pretty much are, all like the
Right.
worst of the worst. But what I'm saying is, why exactly do you make a movie about Dunkirk and it's like heroic that the Brits are allowed to get away, and then you don't even bring up that the Nazis easily could have destroyed them all, and you don't even have a sophisticated like, dialogue about what actually that was, right? Nolan doesn't even have he doesn't even acknowledge that happened in Dunkirk. He makes like a thriller about people retreating.
Mm.
And you just go, okay, yeah, it's a thriller, but then you read more about history and you go, actually, what the fuck was that? Like, what happened there? Because there are competing, in that example, there are competing like ideas there. There are different like versions of what that was. Some people say, okay, Hitler, and again, he did want to make all these deals with like the British Empire because he liked the British Empire. He liked that they were like an empire, like, oppressing people and all this thing, which is the irony. Uh, and he really liked them, and they were like, "Fuck you." And but no, he wanted, and also he like, I think he was like kind of fearful of the Americans getting brought in too eventually. Um,
Yeah.
so that's one side of it, is that he didn't want to destroy the Brits because he thought maybe that would bring the Americans in, like very cynically. But he also just thought, I want to rule the world with the British. Let's split it up with each other, which is again diabolical, but that's what he wanted to do. Or there's another competing line of thought of maybe there's some kind of internal thing going on with the Germans where maybe if they had taken that, I've heard this posited before, if they had destroyed the British Empire, maybe Hitler was like afraid some of his generals were going to take power from him later. It gets kind of confusing, right? I'm not even
Sure.
saying what is happening. I'm just saying that event is not Christopher Nolan's movie. Like, we're so far away from the Dunkirk thing being an like, we're so far away from that complicated historical event being portrayed in a movie where it where the movie elevates this thing and you have a larger conversation, or it gives you a unique perspective on how specific this like moment in time was or something, right? It just kind of waters it down. And I don't know, man. When we get to the ending, again, I was kind of bought in when he's like the old man. I was like, okay, I was curious how he was going to portray this, and I'm glad he's kind of taking it straight on, as far as like you could kind of tell that that's Odysseus in a way, but not really, like there's enough like distance. And, like I was saying earlier, I think Nolan interprets Odysseus pretending to be a beggar, because when he's a beggar, he starts saying that I was a criminal, is one of the pieces of his disguise in the text, is being like, I was a criminal, I've done all these horrible things. And then Nolan takes that and he goes, I'm going to have Odysseus feel guilty for conquering Troy and like doing like war crimes. And it's like, yeah, this is literally the infantilization of the text 100%. This is literally trying to get people to like it's literally trying to make something way simpler than it really is. But anyway, the last sequence, which again is in the text as well, this whole thing with like the bow and like you can't
Right.
string the bow. And that is that makes sense. It does make me kind of see why he wanted to adapt the film. There are little moments like that where I'm like, that is something I could see Christopher Nolan being attached to as an image, like this bow. But then, bro, he fights off all the suitors by himself,
Uh,
which I'm open to that. I'm not even saying that's the end of the world, because this is, like we're saying, this is not about realism. But guess what?
yeah.
It's not how it goes in the text. His son and like 3 other people butcher the suitors, and it's like a bloodbath. It's not an action sequence. They like fucking kill them like brutally. And it's just like, it's kind of like when you're reading these ancient like texts. I mean, I just read the Aeneid, and there are kind of like battle sequences, but it's like kind of confusing.
Sure.
It's just like the way he's trying to adapt this into a film. Like, we just gotta have Matt Damon fight 30 people and then get stabbed and almost die and all this shit, right? We just need to do this like this. We can't just have
Yeah.
it's like the whole movie. Everything about the movie, I'm open to making like changes and stuff. Like, obviously, I'm not even against having, Elliot Page written in like a role that's not even in the text, if it makes sense. Like, in the way he brought that character in, okay, like I guess, and then this whole thing with like the Elliot Page character like used to know the Robert Pattinson character. And then Robert Pattinson, it's like, I'm like 99% sure that Robert Pattinson character, there's no connection to like getting drafted or any of that. Like, that's just completely pulled in. But
Right.
it really makes me wonder, so if we're going to have an action sequence at the end of the movie, why not have Odysseus and 3 or 4 other people versus like 20 suitors? Like, why wouldn't that be the last scene? Like,
Yeah.
why is it Matt Damon by himself versus like 20 people? And then Tom Holland is like ineffectual and like unable to do anything.
Well, the part when he kills Robert Pattinson's friend, when he's like, "Oh, you're Odysseus," and he like shoots him in the neck.
Yeah.
That's like actually pretty cool, because it's like, ah, damn, he got him. But then it's immediately, like you said, it just goes into like, oh, he's just gonna fight. If you could like stage that scene where, there's maybe less suitor. I don't know if that's how many suitors have to be there, but do you get what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Because
No,
it's like a
that's
nice scene, but there's like no. It's not really that triumphant. It just like feels so rushed. It's not it just diminishes all like the swagger that it has.
I know it's kind of bizarre to me, because like Clint Eastwood, like Unforgiven, has that great ending.
when he's like, see in hell, he's like, yeah.
Well,
That
just
the
the
one?
idea of like an older man actually like getting into a crazy like situation where he's like outgunned, and like
Mhm.
surviving. but it plays out in such a way that it's in like the logic of the film and it's in the mythology that the film had created where it actually kind of works. And it's this whole idea that everyone gets nervous before they shoot. So if you have a calm head when you're shooting, you can like survive is kind of what the movie prepares you for with Unforgiven.
Sure.
With Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, it's like it's trying to like pump you up on this 20-year story and make it seem like it's super fast paced. There's no breathing, there's no like going to bed, waking up in the morning, feasts and all this kind of stuff. There's none of this like breath to it that the actual text has that is way more fascinating, which like we're saying, someone doing this over like 6 or 8 hours and having just scenes of people talking to each other would have been even more truthful to the text, but it also would have been way more meaningful. But instead of all of that and having like really doing an epic, I mean, again, I think if he did this over 4 hours, people would still see it. And it would
Yeah.
probably even still, but he would have to get rid of like so much of the things that make Christopher Nolan the most overrated director of all time. He's just not going to
Whoa!
he's not gonna get rid of these things that he does. You know what I mean? Like he's never
Yeah.
been that great of a director. He's always been incredibly overrated. At his best, he's a dude that you can have great memories at the movies seeing him, but there's like a ceiling to like what he can achieve, because he adapts the Odyssey and he gets to a point where he goes, okay, I've just tricked this whole audience into thinking this is like a thriller instead of being like an epic poem, right? Which are
Hmm.
kind of two different things. Like you can have battle sequences in like an epic, but then there's some notion of the passage of time, and like we're saying with these gods, and like also there's like weird like dreams and like the Odyssey. Like there's all these things that are super mysterious about the text that it could give you pause to kind of just be with the characters, and you don't need to be like, oh, let me get this audience to like think this is fucking awesome or whatever. Like, look how awesome
Sure.
Agamemnon's armor is or whatever. So he has this vision of making like a thriller out of like an epic. It's like, okay, like try that. And then to me, it loses steam. And then he makes very key decisions and changes the ending in a way that you're like, okay, Odysseus has always been described as nearly a god anyway. So why not do that? But then it's like this weird in between where it's still like an old Matt Damon fighting like 30 people. And if it was more one sided and it wasn't like a toss up that he was going to win, I almost think it would be stronger. Like if it was 1v30 and he made it look easier than he did in the actual film,
Yeah.
that would have come across more truthful to the text. Because it's like
Hmm.
kind of a back and forth, but the whole thing with Odysseus is like he's just like he's him. And I'm not even making all these different criticisms of the movie to say, oh, you can't cast Lupita Nyong'o because it's not realistic. It's like this is literally based off of like a myth. Like this could be, you can cast anybody. I'm just
Right.
saying this stuff has to line up with the spirit of the text at least a little bit. Like if you're gonna cast Helen of Troy, who's like the most beautiful woman on the planet or whatever, that's like how they're talking about her. You got to have someone that like is talked about in the cultural zeitgeist like that, and then you're not gonna have anyone question that. And again, it's a small role. I don't think that tanks the movie.
Right.
But what really tanks the movie, like again, Lupita and Elliot Page, all this stuff, I think is weird, and I don't think he succeeded with those casting decisions. I think what tanks the movie is this ideological bent that I was saying with like the Zeus's law and trying to compress all this stuff into a thriller, and then you ultimately try to make the ending more spectacular in the sense that it's 1v30, but then it's like a battle to the death, and it's almost like I was watching that all play out, thinking to myself, am I supposed to be like on the edge of my seat right now? Am I
Hmm.
supposed to be like, whoa, I can't believe a 3 hour epic ends with a guy fighting 30 people, 1v30? Like, is that really supposed to be my reaction? Like looking at the armor, looking at Agamemnon's armor, like, whoa. It's just a very hollow, like endpoint for something that has a lot more mystery to it, like the text. And again, we're not even talking about for the sake of like realism. So that's what's kind of maddening about this conversation. I'm sure this is the ultimate movie that it really seems like it's going to have a full range of opinions on it, you know? And I think it really is just like a text, and it really is something like him approaching this is so complicated that every person is going to have a completely different opinion. And I'm open to that. I'm just going to have a really tough time with people like being madly in love with this movie.
Yeah.
I'm okay if people enjoyed it, if people go to it as a blockbuster. I'm not even one of these people that says I saw it, it sucked, don't see it. That's not my perspective. Again, before the movie and I heard Travis Scott was in the movie, I was like, this is not going to be good. And I still saw the movie. I mean, I see crazy people online being like, we got to boycott the film because of these casting decisions. It's like, okay. I like going to the movies. I like having like opinions on stuff. You know, oh shit, I can't believe I even brought this up. I've been so angry. I haven't even brought up one of the funniest things that happened to me though.
Wait, what?
Um no, so when I got my ticket, I bought my ticket and I was trying to go to IMAX, but I
Mhm.
bought 4DX
Oh my gosh.
and I literally had no idea what it was. There was no description online of what the ticket was
That's amazing.
when I got it, not in my email or anything. I just thought, oh, this is probably like nice sound or something. I walk into the theater. See, now that I'm revealing this, people are going to say that this is why I hated the movie. But no, wait a second. I'm not done with my story. Austin's about to like lose his mind, be like, bro, you did not see this in 4DX and just go on this rant. No, I'm
It's-
sorry. I'm cutting to the chase. Of course, I did not watch it in 4DX. So I literally walked into the theater. I sit down and I see this ominous button on the chair that says water on off. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, what the fuck did I get a ticket to? Is there going to be water squirting all over the place? And I thought to myself, am I in hell? Like, no, there's no way, Zach. Calm down. I wasn't high or anything. I was totally like sober minded. I was in the theater. Like, is this? Did I walk into the wrong kind of screen? I'm like, no, I think I'm okay. All the trailers play. Everything's normal. There's no introduction. Nothing says what 4DX is at all. And then the movie starts, and then the chairs start lifting slightly, and I'm sitting there like, oh shit. And it starts, and it's like, it's Travis Scott banging, going like, a war, a blah, a blah, a blah. And the chairs
and the
literally
sounds
like,
like
yeah. And then the chairs literally vibrate every time he hammers his staff on the ground.
oh no.
And I'm sitting there like, what the hell did I just do? And as I'm sitting there, it cuts to like, scenes on the beach and stuff. And I start feeling wind, like air, like around me.
No way.
And then there's like footage of like a boat and water, like from somewhere in the theater, literally squirts through the theater. And people start giggling. And I kind of feel water. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, holy shit, I made a terrible mistake. And then it's like Tom Holland like practicing with his sword with Luigi from Super Mario Brothers. And
Yes.
he's practicing with his sword, and every time their wooden swords connect, my chair is like it's like violently shaking as if I'm like in Iraq or something, as if I'm in like the Iraq war. And I'm literally sitting there like I just ate my whole popcorn. This ticket was $30. But I'm very certain. So first of all, I already in those first couple minutes, I already was like, "Holy shit, this movie is not going to be good." Just from like the first 3 minutes, I was already like, "This does not look good." But then I was like, "I got to give this movie a chance. I can't do this." I literally got up and walked out of the theater, and they gave me a refund, and I got another screening. I got a ticket to another screening.
No. No way.
So I got a refund and I walked into the normal theater and it was right when it was starting. So I didn't miss anything. And I basically just saw the first 2 minutes like twice.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, isn't that insane? That I never even knew they were like doing that in like a random theater, like a random like mainstream theater. They have like a roller coaster
Oh
seat.
my gosh.
I one of the person I'm like, hey, so I had no idea what that was,
No, no way.
and I'm not I'm not trying to watch that movie with like my chair shaking. Like that's not my vibe. Like I don't even know how I phrased it. I wasn't mean or anything. I was just kind of like, there is no way they're gonna. I literally thought they were like not gonna give me a refund. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
even if they gave me a refund, that I was gonna probably have to go back another time because I was like, shit, this might be totally sold out. But thankfully, another screening was okay. But holy shit, that the only thing that could make me hate the movie more is seeing it in 4DX.
You sh- I just
Yeah,
that's great.
no, it's a
What
perfect.
wonder what the Cyclops scene would have been like listen like in the
Bro, they would
4DX
have just
theater.
like tased me. Those chairs were shaking so violently for like nothing. For like nothing. The movie hadn't even like started. There wasn't a battle scene or anything. It was like the very beginning of the movie. It was like literally acting like it was I couldn't believe it. I was like, bro, people actually see movies like this. This is like they're trying to kill cinema. What the fuck? You're supposed to just sit and watch. What the hell?
I can't
But
believe
anyway,
that happened to you.
it's kind of
I could just imagine you being like, yeah, I don't like this. This isn't like was that water? Okay. Yeah. And then you just being like, yeah, I'm getting up right now. I'm leaving. I don't even fucking care. Like I can just
dude,
imagine
I
you being like, this
literally
is a
couldn't
nightmare.
even I had to like time getting out of my seat when the seat wasn't like weirdly elevated too. I was like, "Oh shit, if I just jump off, is this thing gonna like am I gonna be like on a seesaw and just get launched?" It
Oh
was
my gosh.
yeah, it was actually. And again, I don't know, man. Even in the first 2 minutes, I was already looking at this movie like, "Oh man, I kind of know what this is going to be." And then I
Oh.
sat in those seats and I was like, "Oh, I do not want to waste this money." Like I would definitely have seen it. Like even if I wasted the money, I probably still would have gone back. I probably would have just seen it at a worse theater, you know? But no, I didn't
Sure.
end up seeing it in IMAX, and everyone's talking about that too, like the formats and stuff. And I don't know. It's like it really just bothers me that Nolan is like the only director that people like have any appreciation for things like that for. It just is like,
Yeah.
can we have like a little bit more respect to like other filmmakers that you can see their films on film or you can see their stuff on IMAX and like I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing people post about it like who knows? Maybe if I saw it in IMAX I would like it more, but I don't know. Like I'm seeing like people post like the stills, like oh, there's like differences between the normal and then the IMAX, but I just think
Eh.
it's like a pacing thing. It's pacing, presentation, casting, all the acting is terrible. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Is this really Lawrence of Arabia if I see it on IMAX? Like, probably not. I saw critics that were like, "Oh, this is like Christopher Nolan's like Lord of the Rings." That was another thing I had seen going around, and that's kind of where my mind went going into it.
Mm.
But I actually just saw the Lord of the Rings trilogy again for the first time in years, and yeah, no, I mean, I definitely think Tolkien was like inspired by like classic myth and stuff like that. But just I don't know, just I think Christopher Nolan really just has like a pacing issue. I think he runs into this pretty consistently. I had the same issue with Dunkirk. I had the same issue with Oppenheimer. I just think he like has a very like I mean, yeah, it's almost like, yeah, like Michael Bay at his best will make a movie that's really entertaining, but literally every shot lasts a second and it makes you feel dizzy because it's so like schizophrenic
Yeah.
how quick it is. Christopher Nolan, he really pumps himself up to be like almost like an art filmmaker or something because he's like British and you know, I don't know. People just think about him in this way that is a little bit offensive to me. I'm a little bit like I mean, I'm almost at the point where I'm like I think Quentin Tarantino is a better filmmaker than Christopher Nolan. Because
Mm.
at least Tarantino, and I don't even like Tarantino like that. At least he takes risks and does crazy shit. At least he's not trying to make the most watered down thing he can make. At least he's trying to like ruffle people's feathers a little bit. Like, I mean, obviously the casting did that, but ruffle their feathers like, Tarantino has crazy scenes where you're like shocked that something happened. Christopher Nolan is a lot more just like, I don't know. I just think he's like by the book.
Mm.
Like, I think the casting decisions were just wacky and, like, have no justification, but, like, if he's trying to modernize it, it's like, okay, but, I just don't think there's very much imagination. Like, it's just not I don't know if any of the sequences, like, were clever. I think he just kind of he, like, runs into good luck sometimes. Like, the Cyclops is, like, a scene that he's, like, meant to make? Like, I thought the movie was gonna be incredible. When I was in the middle of the Cyclops sequence, I actually was like, wow, this might be incredible. And then the underworld, right after the pigs,
Yeah.
it was like this movie might be pretty fucking good. And then it's like the Dark Knight Rises like music and Matt Damon fighting 30 suitors, and then you're supposed to just be like, get him. It's like, okay, this is just not what this is supposed to be. This is not interesting to me at all, but anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say on this.
Dang. No, I like Dark Knight, Memento, Inception, The
Well, yeah,
Prestige.
Memento is good.
Yeah, Memento's pretty good, but I feel like post Inception, I haven't really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean
Although I
when he's
haven't
done
seen
like,
Tenet, but a lot of people tell me it gets too much hate.
oh yeah, I really like Tenet.
Yeah, because I feel like when I see Nolan rankings, people like put that at the bottom,
Interesting.
and I'm like, geez. I feel like I would list my top Nolan films like complete opposite of people that appreciate him more.
Oh my god, I know, but it just still bothers me hearing people
Dude, Gen
ranking.
Z thinks Interstellar is like Citizen Kane of like the 21st century. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, Interstellar is amazing. It's just like I just get to this point where there are certain things to say to me where I just have so little social battery. Like, what are your favorite Christopher Nolan movies? It's like, bro, just give me a fucking loaded gun and I'll
No,
put it in
no,
my
no.
mouth.
Jeez.
What the fuck? Rank Christopher Nolan movies? How about I rank best suicide attempts?
No, Jesus. Oh, that's terrible.
No, no. It's okay. It's okay.
Do you notice
You know,
though how
some
like every movie ending he has is just one of the characters narrating something about what they're going to do after the story ends? That's been like
oh yeah,
every
yeah.
single Nolan ending is like we're gonna do this, and then this is gonna happen, and we'll be like this, and then
I
it's like
know.
yeah,
And we
and then
just
it just
gotta
says
sorry, what?
that literally happens in like every Nolan movie I've seen,
Yeah, he
right?
does that a
Like
lot. And it used to work. I mean, like the top
it
spinning,
used.
like in Inception.
Well, at least nobody's talking. At least that's like a visual, just interesting. You
Or
know.
everyone's doing the meme with like Christian Bale, like Alfred seeing Christian Bale like with
Oh
Anne
my
Hathaway.
gosh. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it's like that's like practically, you know, when like the movie's about to end, and then you just like no, again, it's like again, I was even saying this, and I don't really want to put out a super long episode just trashing the Odyssey, so we'll wrap it up here in a second. But
Fair.
you know, when we grew up, The Dark Knight is like such a once in a lifetime experience. Seeing that in the theater when it came out,
Sure.
the fact that no one really had, I don't remember people having again, it was like when I was at an age where I was young enough where I didn't know exactly about the movie before it came out. It was just like a huge event when it did. But I'm pretty sure looking back on it, because I did see Batman Begins in the theater too, and
Mm.
it was horrifying. I was young enough where it was like the scariest thing I'd ever seen, type of thing, and I like was pumped on it because I was a child. I was into superhero, not even into superheroes, but I liked Batman. I just liked movies, and like Batman Begins was so well made. Even I could tell at the time, that it was a pretty awesome movie. But we had expectations for The Dark Knight, but it wasn't like it wasn't like, what it would be now when you get pumped about a movie. As far as my memory of it, maybe that's just me personally. Maybe other people were pumped about it that I didn't know about. But then it was just such a huge thing because I think Heath Ledger died right before it came out, right?
Yeah.
Which just added a layer to it. And then the movie was like terrifying. And it's just so funny. We're talking about the Odyssey, this text that is so kind of boundless, and there's so many different ways you could like interpret how you would make this into a good movie. And then we're talking about this film and also Oppenheimer. I remember having this conversation with Oppenheimer that these films were it really feels like a watering down or almost like a making a movie that's technically rated R, but that it feels PG-13, which is extremely bizarre because when he did The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, those movies felt like R, but then they happened to be PG-13. Like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
those movies are really disturbing. He's gone in the direction of like making his movies not scary and not like edgy, and it really has hurt his cinema. But my whole comment that I was just going to say before we wrap is just that The Dark Knight was such a completely different thing. It was like I can't even believe you could make a movie that good. Like when I saw that, I was probably like 12 or 11 or something, and I went with my neighbor who ended up going to prison later, and his dad, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was selling drugs, but this was before that. This was like we were kids, but where we saw The Dark Knight, and it was like it was like scary. You know what I mean? It was like almost seeing like a horror movie or something. Like with the music, like the rising kind of music, and like these villainous characters, and the Joker. It's like implied that he's like torturing people, like off screen, or
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
gonna see torture, and then the person's body hits the glass, and it's like a jump scare. It's like, where did that Christopher Nolan go? Where did that go? And now like you said about another generation of Christopher Nolan people are like they're ranking all the movies and stuff, and they're just like it's just so watered down now. And like Inception was a big deal too when that came out, but it was more like a meme. It was probably his first like true meme movie where people are like, oh, but everything was a dream, like type of thing. Like it became like a running joke, like a Christopher Nolanism, and people attack the movie for similar, for him thinking it was, again, all the things that I think ended up being way more true the further his career has gone is what people said about Inception, that he was, he thinks he's smarter than he is, type of thing, right? Like he's making this movie that it gives the impression that it finds itself incredibly deep and incredibly sophisticated, but it's really just not. It's really just an action movie. But in reality, it actually is a pretty clever action movie, especially when you compare it to like, once you see the Odyssey, to me, I just think we're like completely run out of imagination. We've run out of any of that. I think the movie just takes itself very serious. And again, we haven't even brought this up. I don't think there were any like laughs in the entire film.
Um,
I remember it being just incredibly serious, this Odyssey, like in a way that like I'm not even saying the original text is like supposed to be funny, but it's just like, yeah, we're just making a very serious movie, but then it's going to be like R-rated but feel like it's PG-13. It's not really going to feel like the Cyclops part. I guess you could call it scary, but I don't know. I feel like our version of like what he was supposed to be as like a director, to me, it was like a completely different thing than how I hear people talk about him now. And I just think it's really hurt his like
sure.
stock. Because now people talk about him like as if he's like literally the greatest director ever. And it just gets to a point where you're like, guys, I always thought he was like kind of a clever filmmaker with like some technical skill that could make blockbusters compelling. And because he kind of made him scary, or he would do, we were talking about the practical. That's another thing. It's like, the practical effect thing that was always there and that was always awesome with him. But I feel like now we're just at a point where people are like, oh, and then the Cyclops, the giant puppet, isn't that fucking crazy? And it's like, yeah, it looks awesome. I agree. Like that's the best part of the movie. I mean, the movie should have ended in the Cyclops scene. But like, what am I like? How many scenes in the Odyssey am I supposed to just be like, oh my god, can you believe he used an actual camera and no AI? It's like, yeah, I get it. He's not a fucking complete sellout. Like, that's what I will say. I think he's authentic. I think the mistakes he makes are genuinely mistakes. I don't think he's like a sellout. Like, all this talk about like people calling it like woke casting and shit because,
Sure.
you need a certain amount of diversity to get nominated for Oscars. I don't know how much I believe that just because he just made Oppenheimer and it's like all white people and like no one cares. No one said the movie is like racist because there's no blacks in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So clearly that's not, I don't think that pressure really applies to Christopher Nolan. I think it might be a new rule that the Oscars instituted. I'm not actually positive on that. But no, I definitely wouldn't call him a sellout. I just think I wouldn't say that, I think he genuinely wanted to make this movie a certain way. And I think he made mistakes with it. And genuinely, I just think it's not in his nature to adapt this text. And again, I'm open to seeing his movies in the future. I like going to the theater. I like people being excited about films. I just feel like
Sure.
this is the worst. I think this is his worst film, and I think he probably
Whoa.
should. I think he should get back to like we were almost talking about with Spielberg or something. Like it feels like he's better suited for like science fiction almost, or like something else. Like it's just. I just don't know if this is it for him adapting like a classic text. I don't think he has the I don't think he's sophisticated enough. I feel like you can make the Odyssey for like way less money and do it way more imaginative and even be more outside the box with certain decisions and make more
Mm.
changes and it would have made more sense. But I feel like he just made the wrong decisions and yeah.
Damn. I feel like we just killed him.
Well, he'll be okay. It's
He'll be all right.
we'll be back. We'll do the Her Private Hell and then we'll really get into the dichotomy between everybody hating that movie, and then we'll see what you think about it, and then me loving that film, and then hating this, and everyone fucking loves this movie. But anyway, that's pretty much it.
Sweet.
All right, bye bye.
Bye.